Hello everyone. So what about the twin charts, or how to assess the fetal growth in twin pregnancies, and do we need to use twin specific charts? We know that twins tend to be smaller than singleton fetuses. When we compared the growth in twins versus growth in singleton pregnancies, and we did that using data from almost 10,000 ultrasound examinations from more than 2,000 twin pregnancies. When you compare the biometry in twins compared to singleton, you find that it corresponds to the 40th centile in singletons at 18 weeks, that drops to the 35th centile at 25 weeks, and drops to the 30th centile at 35 weeks. And we find that monochorionic twins tend to be smaller than dichorionic twin pregnancies. But what we did is that we used this large ultrasound data to construct twin chorionicity-specific growth reference charts. This means that you have specific charts to dichorionic twins and specific charts to monochorionic twins. And the charts were for the individual biometry, so that's the head circumference, abdominal circumference, and female length, and also for the estimated fetal weight. These charts are already published in scientific journals and also available in some ultrasound databases like the Viewpoint. But we also acknowledge that some clinicians or some people do not have access to these ultrasound databases and would like to have access to these twin charts. So we have a website, it's free to access, it's called www.twingrowth.co.uk. And if you go to this website, you can actually select the charts that you want. So you select the type of twin pregnancies, for example, dichorionic or monochorionic. And you can, as you see on the screen, you can see you put the gestational age in weeks and in days, and then you put the estimated fetal weight in grams, and you will get that from the ultrasound, and then that automatically will give you the centile. So you can see, for example, on the screen, 27 weeks and 5 days, estimated fetal weight is about 1,000 grams. That corresponds to the 17.57 centile. You can also download these charts in PDF files, and therefore if you don't use electronic records, if you use paper-based records, you can actually download these charts, print them, and file them in the patient's records or notes, and then can plot the charts from each scan on the charts. Again, it depends whether dichorionic or monochorionic twin charts. There is always this controversial opinions about whether we should assess the growth in twins using twin-specific charts or singleton charts. And the people who view that we should use singleton charts, they feel that actually twin pregnancies are high risk, and therefore they have pathological growth, and therefore we use the singleton charts to identify that. And the people who would believe that we should be using the twin-specific charts want to adjust for the fact that this pregnancy is a twin pregnancy, and they tend to be smaller, and in fact the majority of these pregnancies actually have healthy and normal outcomes. So we try to validate this twin charts, or called the Stork charts or the Tamba charts, and we compare them against the singleton charts, against a number of single charts to assess the accuracy for stillbirths in twin pregnancies. And this paper is published. You can see the abstract on the screen, but certainly the conclusions with the fact that the twin charts had equivalent predictive performance for stillbirths in twin as well in singleton, as singleton charts, but they classified less or fewer fetuses as small for gestation age, and therefore the consequences that you are less likely to label the twin pregnancy as complicated with fetal growth restriction or small babies, and therefore you avoid unnecessarily iatrogenic preterm delivery, and that's without really increasing the risk of stillbirths. At the same time, there is another Canadian study that's published in American Journal in 2019, where they also try to address this issue of using the twin versus the singleton charts and assessing the fetal growth in twin pregnancies. And they did that by looking at the association between growth restriction and hypertensive disorders in twin pregnancy compared to singleton pregnancy. And what you can see here is that when they looked at the risk of fetal restriction in singleton pregnancies complicated by hypertensive disorders of pregnancy compared to those who did not have hypertension, the risk was twice. So the one that have hypertension in pregnancy, they have twice the risk of having fetal restriction compared to if you don't have hypertension or preeclampsia. When they looked at the dichorionic twin pregnancies and they assessed them using the singleton chart, they did not find a significant relationship. There was no association between fetal restriction and hypertensive disorders, which is difficult to comprehend. But when they actually assessed the twins using twin-specific charts, they found exactly the same association or the same strengths of relationship as you would expect or as what we saw in singleton pregnancy. So the risk was twice. The risk of fetal restriction in hypertensive disorders of the pregnancy in twin pregnancies was almost twice or more than twice the risk compared to pregnancies that did not have hypertension or preeclampsia. The study went on to also look at early onset hypertensive disorders in pregnancy, and they found a very similar pattern, but obviously the risk was higher. So if you have early onset preeclampsia, your risk of developing fetal restriction you would expect to be higher, it's almost 5 times higher. And that was the case in singleton, and the case in twins if you use the twin-specific charts, but not if you use the singleton charts. And also they found similar pattern if they looked at the risk of hypertension or preeclampsia in pregnancies with fetal restriction. So in singleton, twice the risk, and in twins, if you use singleton charts, you don't see a significant association, but if you use a twin-specific charts, you see similar strengths of association. So if you have selective fetal restriction in a dichorionic twin pregnancy, you have double the risk of developing hypertension or preeclampsia compared to if you don't have selective fetal restriction. And therefore, this study further supports the use of twin-specific growth charts in assessing fetal growth in twin pregnancies. I hope that's useful, and thank you for your attention.